Okay. So today has been great, but the one thing missing is disagreement. Everybody has agreed on everything, and that's a little bit boring. And so I hope that we change that right now, although Brendan and Malte promised me no fistfights, so that's good. So I'm going to start to my far left, introducing Malte. Malte has been at Google for 6 years. He worked on something called Google Photos that you may or may not use, and the people who use it absolutely love it. I see people talking about it all the time, so congratulations on that. And for the last 13 months has been the tech lead for a new project, a new initiative at Google called AMP that we're going to learn a lot about today. AMP stands for Accelerated Mobile Pages, and we're talking about the future of mobile. So very excited to have you here, Malte.
Thanks for having me.
Brendan, well, he's way back when worked at a company called Netscape that you may have heard of. And while he worked at Netscape, he literally created JavaScript. So he is the creator of JavaScript. For any of you developers who love JavaScript,
Got better.
you can thank Brendan and afterwards run up and find out where the whole story behind it and its name and whatnot. But that doesn't end there. Then he went on to found Mozilla, another company you probably have heard of, and most recently is now went back to the startup world after being at Mozilla for a long time, CTO, founder, CEO for a brief period of time. He started a new browser company called Brave, and they are about a year old. So he's trying to create the next generation browser, which is a really hard thing to do. So welcome, Brendan. Malte and Brendan know each other because Malte is also a big JavaScript expert. And so they've known each other for many years, but they kind of have different points of view on the topic today. So welcome. So I thought we'd start by talking a little bit about how the mobile world has changed, just to set the context the last 5 years.
Go first.
Yeah, so we're talking about content, and there's definitely the emergence of like social platforms driving a lot more traffic than they used to. And there's billions of new users across the world. And Ilya earlier touched about this, there's been also none change. So, we all have like 4G phones, but not everyone has a 4G connection. Some things stay the same, and that is latency is still a big thing. And so websites are too slow, apps feel too slow, and that's kind of the thing we're looking at.
Brendan, what's changed for you for mobile the last 5 years?
I used to be on a Gen 1 iPhone for too long, and it got really slow. But also at Mozilla, we were from the era when the PC was big, so I think 5 years ago is when we actually started seriously doing mobile work, and websites still need to do a better job because, like Malte said, there's too much latency, there's congestion, there's packet loss, and it's painful.
Okay, so Malte, tell us a little bit. What is AMP? What is your mission at AMP, and what do you guys do?
Yeah, so we started a year ago, and basically what we felt was the mobile web really is too slow, and we have to do something. And when I say me, obviously I work for Google, but we early on reached out to publishers who obviously produce many of these pages, and then we were talking to them like, what can we do together? And AMP kind of grew out of this. What it really is, like at the very low level, it's a web components library. And it has one element of it that I think is pretty innovative, which is a validator that you run, and then it tells you you actually have a valid AMP page, and if that is the case, then we can kind of guarantee that it's going to be reliably fast. I mean, you can still mess it up, but it's very likely to be fast. And what that solved, I think, was this issue that we I think since about 2009, we kind of know how to make fast websites, but we then tried to educate people, and that kind of didn't work. And so this gave it scale in that now everyone who's an engineer who knows how to run a compiler, and the compiler gives error messages, and I just fix it. That's my job. And that's how AMP works. So it becomes really easy to do that. And the final thing that we don't talk about that much because there's such a performance story, but there's a very interesting aspect. AMP is about putting content out there and let it be displayed inside of apps, inside of platforms, in a way that retains monetization control for the publisher. And what it really does, it gives an API to a website and a way for a platform to interact at runtime with a web page. And that actually opens up a lot of possibilities that haven't been used all that much, but that I'm really excited about.
So just for those of you who don't know exactly what AMP is, take your cell phone out, Okay. And if you open up the browser, you go to google.com and type in something like Hillary Clinton, and you scroll down, you're going to see a carousel come up, and you start to click on these, and the pages load super fast. You can start scrolling through. This is AMP. And you see down in the corner, there's a little powered by AMP, amplified symbol, but this is what you and your team are working on.
Right, and we're seeing basically like about under a second load time as opposed to about 19 seconds on other web page. So it's a pretty, it's a very, very, very significant improvement.
Yeah, wow, 19 seconds to a second.
I wouldn't have imagined that, but it works.
That's great. Okay, so now that we know a little bit about AMP, Brendan, tell us about Brave. Why are you creating a new browser? I mean, there's a couple of good browsers out there.
A few. I did this already, and over time, browsers tend to get big and old. It happens to all of us. They tend to...
Not me.
They tend to also have their owners take their eye off the ball, in my opinion, unless it's a rare bird like Opera for a time or Mozilla when I was there. Usually they have the owning business has other agendas like advertising or operating systems or making shiny devices, just to pick 3 random examples. And that's a problem because the browser quality starts to drop over time. So Brave is based on Chrome, but we take out all ads, third-party ads and trackers by default because the system has become parasitic and toxic. We realize that hurts publishers, so we are working on ways for Brave users to give money to publishers anonymously and in small amounts. And we also proposed, we haven't done this yet, a better way of mediating third-party ads, which already are done through JavaScript, my fault, on the page. It was totally accidental, right? There was the cross-site image, which I think Tim Berners-Lee was against, but Mark Andreessen and Eric Bina just said, oh, let's put it in Mosaic. And they did it. It was great. You could hot link to your friend's cat pictures. Why not? Cross-site. And then in Netscape 1, there was the first-party cookie to cache your logins, so you didn't have to log in all the time when you restarted your browser, or even went back and forward in history. Just the 2 of those together made third-party tracking. You put a pixel on ESPN, you put it on the New York Times, it sets a cookie, it checks the cookie first. If it sees that you've been to ESPN, it knows you went to the New York Times. This was totally accidental evolution, and it led to, with JavaScript pouring fuel on the fire, this whole ecosystem of third-party advertising, which is now conveying malware onto top publisher sites. So Brave is trying to stop that, but provide a way for publishers to be economically whole. And we actually have a bigger vision, which is that you should own your own data. Users aren't paid for their data right now. They're the product. You know, if you look around the poker game and you can't spot the chump, you're it. If you look around and see who's not getting paid, that person's product. We think you should get paid. It's not that money is everything. It's that it at least shows that you're considered to have bargaining power. And the only way to do that is to block trackers. So,
Malte, you work for Google that makes a lot of money selling ads. A lot. A lot.
Most.
And so then we have Brendan here who's saying, well, ads are bad. I'm going to block the ads. The future of the internet is no ads. I mean, and what do you think?
So I agree with Brendan that there is a problem with display advertising on the internet. And I want to expand on the historical perspective. So most of the ad tech you see today was created in the late 90s, early 2000s, and everything that we've done since is essentially backward compatible and still fulfilling those old constraints. And there wasn't someone in 1999 who was thinking like, let me start by designing a security model and everything goes from there, right? They just didn't do that. Like they didn't anticipate that being such a great thing. And so I kind of agree with the assessment in general, but what I'm actually very optimistic about is that if you go in 2016 and say, how would we actually design this if we started today, that you could build something that wouldn't have these problems. So for example, Brendan mentioned malware. No one wants to read in the paper that there's malware on their site. And there's no actual technical reason that you can't have advertising on the web without also disrooting malware, right? Those actually don't have anything to do with each other. So I think we can actually get to very, very good state, but we finally have to make the leap of breaking backward compatibility and really make a big jump forward.
So you think that there's a security vulnerability in ads, but if we fix that, then users online will be okay with content next to ads. Brendan, what does that mean for your company?
I'd like to see it happen because I don't think it can. I think the web is an open system. Nobody owns it. And the reason publishers use third parties is because they want to aggregate audience. Even the big premium publishers don't know who you are just from the context of the page around the ad or from your browsing on their site alone. So they really do want third parties to track you and build profiles and try to predict and guarantee audience and yield. And ad tech is this sort of constant hustle where everyone's saying, oh yes, we've got the latest, header bidding or header bidder wrapping, or, online behavioral advertising was supposed to do it too. Yields were supposed to go up, but they didn't. Money just moved around to a different pocket, and the system as a whole had these negative externalities like malware, driving people to ad blockers, which, you could be a good person who converts on ads and helps publishers make money, but suddenly you get a bad ad and you decide, I'm going to use an ad blocker, and now you're out, you opted out of the system, and you're not supporting any sites, even the ones you like. This seems like a hard problem to solve. Google doesn't control the whole web. Microsoft, Apple, nobody does. And there are a lot of publishers out there still buying ad tech every year and buying this hype. So I think this is going to be with us for a while.
And so what about apps? I mean, where does apps fit into the whole picture? Where, what if you just don't need a browser and you don't need AMP because I just get everything from my apps?
So I think people have described apps as these custom, special purpose web browsers. And it doesn't really make sense to read the New York Times in an app. They also have a web page. It does make sense to read the New York Times in the app you're already using. And so I think what I'm really excited about is this going from web versus native into an integration between the two, because people will, they are going to use these apps, but the content, HTML turns out to be a pretty good way to encode content. And, if you just reinvent it, you probably arrive at something very, either very similar or having just different problems. So I don't really buy that there's either or. Apps are reality, they're great, but they serve a very specific purpose, and content works well on the web, and I think will continue to do so.
I was looking at a ComScore report on 2015. Desktop, mobile websites, mobile apps, and all three were growing. Desktop, the only real app is the browser. So the browser is still growing. It's not dying. Desktop, which means laptops for a lot of us, is actually growing, though it's slowing. And mobile is hot, but there's still not only browsers on mobile that were growing, according to this ComScore report. There's the big browser no one talks about. It's not a great browser in my view, Facebook. It has an embedded web view. A lot of people are reading articles in it. So I think I agree with Malte on this. We're probably like brothers in arms, right? I'm using Chromium code. It's all great. And we want progressive web apps that use, service workers. We want things that look like native apps. We want to blur the line, erase the line.
So both of you spend a lot of time talking to publishers. When you go talk to publishers about what's coming over the horizon in terms of mobile, what do you hear from them?
Why aren't they using AMP more?
I don't hear from them, I don't want to use AMP. What we hear from them is, obviously they see challenges in their monetization. They obviously have problems publishing to all these different platforms. And so, I can't really help with them. Here's another one, I'm sorry. But on the other hand, we've definitely, on the other hand, we ask them, what are the problems you want to solve, and try to, together with them, come up with solutions. And one thing we didn't mention is that AMP is an open source project, and we, tightly work together with the people using it to make content to actually change AMP to be great for them.
Brendan, what do publishers say to you?
So I know some are using AMP too, but I remember reading about the Daily Beast, which flirted with Facebook Instant articles and AMP and then didn't use either. And I've talked to publishers. A lot of them, maybe it's they get captured by their ad tech vendors, but they want to have things that AMP doesn't support. They want header bidding or header bidder bidders or wrappers or whatever this latest nonsense that's being sold is. They really think that they're going to get more yield from it, and maybe for a time they do. So I know publishers who generally, even if they're big and have a tech team, are a little bit easily bamboozled, frankly, by their vendors. And part of that is this constant third-party sales cycle of try the new thing for better yield, which means you're putting another script from a different domain on your page. You're probably leaving the old one behind, or your contractors are, because you didn't have the tech team. You hired some contractors, and they're afraid to touch it, which is why some sites have integrations left over that slow them down. So I don't want to be too mean to the publishers, but I do think there's a problem of specialization where a lot of publishers just don't have the tech strength to really optimize things.
Well, to put it in a positive light, what I'm actually seeing is that there's the engineers working for these publishers, and they want to do a great job. And we're talking, and what we realized is there's what I call, and I think this is not the official way to put it, the middle management problem, right? So I have this ad tech thing on my site, or this like interstitial, and it makes me this much money, right? And then I realize maybe it's not such a good idea. I turn it off, and then I'm making less money. Shit, let's put it back, right? And so you need obviously like upper management support at these companies to go over this like hill where you agree. We actually have to make substantial changes that are going to come back positive in the long term, and we need to be able to live with short-term revenue impact.
It's the global optimization problem. You climbed a hill and you like the weather and there's a flood coming, it's going to kill you. And you don't want to go down and walk across the plains and get to a higher ground. You just feel like every step in the wrong direction hurts your bottom line in the near term. And so, yeah, not to bust on the publishers, a lot of them are stuck on a hill.
Got it. Okay, just changing gears for a second. So you both like JavaScript a lot. Maybe a little?
It's 21 years old. It's out of the house. It's cut off. It's on its own.
So there's a lot of developers, computer science students who are tuning in by live stream. A lot of people here who want to learn, what programming language should I really jump into and sink my teeth into. What words of advice do you have to a budding developer of, is JavaScript a language that they should learn to become experts at?
I mean, I typically say, I get that question asked a lot. I usually say yes. There's all these things you can do with it. It runs on robots, drones, and rockets. Apparently, NASA is using it for their spacesuit now. And then it's in our web, obviously, there's a great technology called React Native to build native apps. So it's going all these places. On the other hand, like if you in a code camp today and you just want to make get a quick job, maybe you go for a Java, Android, or C#. But it's definitely a great option. I definitely still enjoy it, even though it's now a drinking age in America.
Yeah, it started early. JavaScript also has these static checkers. AMP is cool. I think this is a good thing about AMP. You can actually run this checker and it'll make sure it doesn't get slow. JavaScript has TypeScript, Flow, other languages that I could name, long list that compile to JavaScript or that add a little value by adding optional annotations or types to give you warnings. And that's powerful. I love languages. We're in sort of the second golden age of programming languages. I was the executive sponsor of Rust at Mozilla, which is independent now. Dropbox is using it. And Rust is more like a safe C++ than anything. So it depends on what you're doing. If you're writing systems code, you want C, C++, Rust. If you're writing something for a spaceship or an ad or a browser or a server, you might want JavaScript or something like it. And JavaScript is getting to the point, because it's so widely distributed, that it will become the compile target or the go-to runtime for a lot of languages, and that's called WebAssembly. It's a second way of loading code faster.
Brendan, I love that you use the word rocket ships and ads in the same sentence when describing the power of JavaScript. That's
monetize
quite clever. Yes, exactly. We use a lot of JavaScript here. We have a big team that works on it. We also use a lot of Go, and developed by one of your colleagues, Rob Pike at Google. Malte, what do you think about Go?
Yeah, I'm personally not a fan.
How come? Compare, contrast. Again, and there's a lot of people in the room that probably don't necessarily know what's good or pros, cons. Compare, contrast in your personal opinion.
Yeah, no, I think Rob is a very opinionated person. I think he has the wrong opinion about error handling. But in reality, it doesn't matter all that much at the language level. You can get, pretty productive in all of them, as long as there's curly braces. which I think is like, basically you need curly braces, otherwise no one's going to use it. So if you're a language developer, that seems to be a fundamental property.
Okay, I have one more question, and then I'm going to go to questions for the audience, so start thinking if you have some. And we'll definitely continue the debate internally here at CloudFlare of JavaScript versus Go. I think that'll be some fun internal conversations. So the internet we know today definitely has advertising on it, and there's some companies who made a lot of money doing that. What does it look like over the next 2 to 3 years? What's over the horizon?
Fewer ads. I think, here's what I think. Smartphone is such a category killer, unlike going from mainframes to mini computers. It's just a scale down, or PCs. But the smartphones, like everybody has one. It's an action device. It's in your pocket. You better trust it. And it doesn't have enough screen space to really want a lot of ads. So I think it's just not a great display, let's say, vehicle. And that's why you're seeing full screens, videos, and hiding auto-collapsing videos. Silent movies are back because they mute. I think Facebook's trying to make them play sound. That's going to be terrible. So there's a problem that advertising is always trying to shotgun your attention across all the sites you might visit, online advertising. I actually think Google now is going in a better direction. Make something that can predict the information you need when you need it and not bother you otherwise. I think that would be a better direction than what we think of as advertising.
Malte?
Yeah, I think I alluded earlier to that I'm like very optimistic about going about it in a principled, technical way and trying to solve the problems. I posted this blog post the other day titled, "What About the Ads?" Because people are always asking me, hey Malte, you make like content fast with AMP, but isn't it the ads that are like the fault? And I could say because it was really hard to change them and people wanted them, so we had to kind of support them. But so basically AMP initially went this way of like mitigating the issues, but then we realized, and this is one of those moments where you like built some technology and afterwards it seems it's better for something else. So you can argue AMP being a good or bad thing, but it seems such a perfect technology for advertising because you have these like pure atoms of stuff that you can like reason about what they do. That's not like currently third-party advertising. There runs some random people's JavaScript on your site. You don't really know what's happening. And so if you just stop doing that and have something that you can reason about, and we can say, I have certain invariants about how it interferes with user experience. I can, for example, say, it's always more important that I can scroll this page than it is important that this ad shows me video, right? And if you can reason about it in this way, you can, I think, find a better compromise where you have the, unquestionable benefit of free content that's paid for by advertising, while still, having a great user experience. I think there's a compromise to be found that we not necessarily meeting right now, and it's definitely worth trying to do a much better job.
So here's the rub. I gave you grief on Twitter about this. You've integrated like 50 or 60, I lost track. It's on a GitHub. It's a GitHub file. You can go read it. It's like a bunch of different third parties that are allowed to be AMP third parties. And they can do tracking still, right? They can build a profile of the user from site to site. That's their business.
So, I mean, as I said, AMP right now supports legacy ad tech in a way that reduces the effect on user experience. So, for example, everyone knows this effect where you go to a web page and it's really slow and you start reading and then boom, everything's down because there's an ad popping up, right? And so we can guarantee that this doesn't happen. We don't control, and we don't want to control what the ad in particular is doing. There obviously are some differences in that the ad is never a first party. If you know about security systems and browsers, that does make a difference. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, we're trying to find a compromise where we get better on security, we get better on user experience, while retaining existing monetization, because you can't just go out and say, we don't really have the new system yet, but you all have to like stop making money now for 2 years. It's not going to be very good for the publishers.
And unrealistic.
Yeah, that's happening though with ad blocker adoption. There's a real race here to the bottom, right? The more people get ad blockers, the publisher has a smaller segment left to advertise to, and sometimes the ad targeting gets worse and it just drives them down to ad blockers and the quality goes down. I appreciate the ecosystem problem, I call it, and I think it needs to be solved systematically. The problem is users, if they have a right to their own data profile, their own attention, they have to hold onto that data or they won't have any bargaining power. And that's why Brave is blocking third parties. Even if everybody were using AMP and it was all nice and fast, I think we would still be trying to give the user leverage over their own data.
I have a lot of questions about that, but I want to go out to the audience. Does anyone here have any questions for Malte or Brendan?
How has the standardization of JavaScript contributed to either making it a more mature or a faster moving technology?
Standards are slow. I still work on the JavaScript standards body, ECMA TC39. We're meeting at Facebook in 2 weeks. Or Netflix, I forget which, Netflix, then Facebook. We've got everybody. We've got Airbnb, so we've got a unicorn on board. We have all the browser vendors. We have.
I'm pretty sure Netflix and Facebook are both unicorns too.
JavaScript's getting decent, right? It's got lots of nice affordances, and it's getting stuff that people have to use tools for right now, built into the language. But I think the level of discourse that AMP works at is really more in the W3C. And Brave just joined W3C, but I haven't had time in a long time for it. We had to actually go around it back in 2004 to restart HTML5. We went and formed the WhatWG. So I have a somewhat skeptical view of standards bodies. I think what we need is winning innovation and the ability to, this is the good part of the standards bodies, donate what might be intellectual property rights to the standards body. And then you get something everybody can share. It's like AMP could be standardized.
Well, so I mean, I think the concept of the extensible web, which actually goes directly here, right? So you do low-level things, and then applications are built on top, right? So AMP, people ask about being standardized. It doesn't really make sense. Like, you know, jQuery and React don't standardize. They're JavaScript libraries, and we're a JavaScript library. It's an application layer thing, which doesn't really make sense to standardize because it's just, you know, that's what applications are. Like, you know.
What about semantic markup for ads? That was something that we passed up a long time ago, and people are doing either, you know, iframes. They don't do them much. They do images or divs or script on page. Sometimes you can't tell.
Right. I mean, I think the obviously AMP is using web components which add a layer of semantics that are like is not standardized, and it's always obviously, I mean, just because you say something is something, that doesn't mean it's true, but it doesn't, in many ways, you can say like, here's a carousel, or these are tabs, right? So there's definitely a layer of semantics, and I mean, one of the reasons why AMP can do better in the presence of ads, for example, is we know there's an ad, right? If you just load someone's JavaScript file and they can do whatever they want to your site, then they don't know there's an ad. It's also hard for browsers to slow it down. Like, for example, like in a third-party iframe now, all the browsers kind of say, that's not as important as the main page, we're going to slow it down. But if the ad runs in the main page, it's really hard, right? So, because at least AMP knows there's an ad, it can deal with it, except instead of like knowing nothing, basically.
Yeah, I think that would be good to standardize. I don't mean all of AMP, but the good parts, right? Like Crockford said. AMP the good parts.
I promise disagreement.
It's definitely good to, like, obviously to just try things and say, like, what are the things that turn out to be actually a good idea.
Oh, here's another one. What about, isn't Google trying to make scripts that do document write be penalized somehow?
Oh, I mean, they launched a feature, if you're, like, document write is technology where you can essentially delay loading a page forever and load an ad on the way.
I did it.
It turns out not the greatest idea.
It's used by Google.
Google, we shouldn't get too deep there. Basically what Chrome is doing is saying, if you're on 2G, we're not going to do it. We just stop. Like, it's called an intervention where you purposefully violate the standard by saying this is better for the user because this technology can lead to page load times in hundreds of seconds. It's obviously better to load it in 10 seconds because otherwise they wouldn't have finished loading anyway. And it's now being rolled out from 2G only to 2G-like. So if you're like on a bad Wi-Fi, you would get the same benefit. So I mean, that's actually...
By the way, I totally agree. And if you just take that argument and change document.write to third-party ads, same argument. I'm with you.
To be honest, like this is literally how AMP works.
Third-party ads slow you down to dozens of seconds.
So AMP strictly loads ads after the page is already done. So
the content's there.
It's kind of like that. So the ad, we can basically tell you, page load time will never be negatively impacted by the ad, right? I think that's a very nice promise. And sure, like there's still, like, I mean, obviously that's why we're working on it. We haven't solved all the problems, but I think that's a very nice first step, like progress over the status quo.
But you said 19 seconds down to a second.
Yeah.
Right? That's a big improvement.
And I agree. Like doing things like Chrome is doing for 2G connections to break the standards a little bit, it fits within I think the ambit of web browsers, like users.
Last question. Sir Tim. Oh, let's just get you a microphone, Dina. Thank you.
Why it's coming? That nonsense story about me not wanting to add images.
Uh-oh.
We need to talk about that.
That's what I heard. Andreasen told me, right?
We just want a different mock-up.
Okay.
And the next text object didn't make it easy to put images in for a few releases. So, what I was going to talk about was with the mic is payments. And if you're not going to get, if your creative person isn't going to get paid through advertising, and I must agree, I think there are actually a lot of people here. They may not be in this room, but there are a lot of people out there who feel that advertising is really decreasing the value of their lives and their kids as well, and they would love to bring up their children without them just being having their lives possibly without advertising. So a lot of people, I think, would follow you, but you have to get money to the creators. There's web payments. Hopefully, with web payments, maybe people get more creative with w3.org/payments. Just saying. So hopefully, as we get more standardization there, and the whole browser experience about paying for things will mean that there will be, and maybe people will get creative about smaller amounts, paying in smaller quantities, randomly distributing tips. So certainly I think it's good for people to think in general about alternative ways of getting money to the creative people, the people who've played the songs and written the songs, and because that's important.
So Brave
Quickly.
012.1 is out today. It has Brave payments. You can automatically and anonymously micro tip your top sites. You don't have to think about it. And we think anonymity is important. That's hard to do today with money and Bitcoin. We think micro is important. People don't want to pay a lot per good article. And the fees, even on the Bitcoin blockchain, or the interchange charge from your credit card will kill you. You don't want to give your credit card out. We joined the W3C mainly to, I think, work on web payments, though, Yan Zhu works for Brave and she was on the tag, so maybe she'll come back.
So, I feel like my mobile phone has made me a much more productive person. And I think a lot of people in this room share that sentiment. And so we have to find a way to continue to do business online and have the creators put content online and still make sure that people get paid for their work. And so thank you for all the work you're doing and the debate and the conversation, and looking forward to seeing the results of your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very much.